Good afternoon. My name is Steve Ewell. I'm Executive Director of the CTA Foundation, the charitable organization affiliated with the Consumer Technology Association. It's my great pleasure to be joined here by two members from the American Foundation for the Blind, who happen to be one of the grant recipients from our foundation, Paul Schroeder and John Lilly. Paul, would you mind introducing yourself really quickly and talking a little bit about screen readers and the program that we're doing together, focused on why are screen readers so important for your community?
Well, thank you, Steve. And first thing I want to say on behalf of the American Foundation for the Blind is we're thrilled to have the CTA support that we've received, and thrilled to be able to be at CES, which CTA has made possible for us for the last. And just walking around the show here, it's wonderful to find companies that are beginning to address accessibility and work toward technology that works better for people who are blind or visually impaired. And I think that's a credit to this organization. You know, Gary Shapiro always asks the FCC chair about their accessibility work, and I think that reflects the support that CTA has for this effort. So thank you for that. And you asked specifically about screen readers, and of course, that is a technology that blind people have been using for a good 30 years now to make computers accessible. What they do in a nutshell is turn text on a screen into speech or into Braille on a Braille display, so that a blind person can know what's on the screen, can interact with the screen, can navigate around and fill in things like edit boxes and other things that might be important. But anything that appears on the screen is converted into speech, and that's primarily, or Braille, and that's what we would call a screen reader. It's a piece of software that's typically added to a computer, or of course built in to the operating system, the way Apple and Google with Android have both done.
That's great. John, could you give us a little bit of an update on the project that we're funding, that you're doing? Where are we in that progress, and how is this project different from some of the other work with screen readers that's out there?
Sure, I'd be happy to give you an update on that, Steve. So pretty much, I'll go ahead and tell you guys exactly how this one sets it apart. So we're not only teaching people how to use a screen reader, we're teaching them how to use a computer with a screen reader. Most of the individuals that you're going to run into with vision loss are older people, and they don't have as much computer experience. So in addition to using screen readers, we're also teaching them how to actually use a computer. So we go over like how to access files and what different files do and things like that. As far as the progress, we have three separate or four separate types of videos that we're doing. We have one for beginners, one for intermediate, and one for advanced, and then a last one to help out developers on how to make websites accessible.
And John, we should point out that we're talking about something called NVDA. That's N as in Nancy, V as in Victor, D as in Delta, and A as in Alpha, NVDA. And we're doing that because it's an open source screen reader that is freely available to individuals. But you mentioned that part about companies, and it's also a screen reader that many companies use to test accessibility of websites or software, because it is open source and it is a very stable and well-built product.
The one we are working with, and they accept donations. So if you'd like to donate to NVDA, I'm sure they'd be glad to have that. So we have the beginner videos recorded and edited, and we're working on getting a test bed set up on the website in order to get those up there, tested, and have people view those. We have the scripts for the intermediate ones written, and we are in the process of recording those. And as we record those, we'll polish up the beginner ones. We haven't started the advanced ones yet, but we're still on track to finish everything up in July.
That's great. Can you tell me a little bit more about the fourth bucket in this, in the video? When you're working with developers, how can you help reach out to the general developer community to help them understand the importance of making their sites, making their apps compatible with screen readers? Why is it, if I was a developer here at CES, why would it be important for me to make sure that I'm building this into my apps?
So just like any other person, someone with vision loss wants to use your product. So if you can make it accessible, you will most likely get people with vision loss to use your product. So that's more, I guess, revenue for you, and bringing in more users on your product. But we're also a good thing about being at CES is we get to see a lot of tech companies. So we get to have a lot of interactions with them and try to help them out, make their products more accessible. And we're actually on this one, we're only focusing on websites because that's what NVDA is only for a computer. But it's just common mistakes that people make: unlabeled buttons, pictures that don't have any type of text. It's just it shows like a link or something. And it's really simple stuff that it doesn't take much to change to make it accessible.
One of the things that we do find with working with developers is that if we can show them something like NVDA that really kind of puts front and center where the problems might be with a website, they find that it's relatively easy to fix if they know it early on. And we often say that good development is accessible development. And so if a company follows the right standards for accessibility, NVDA is a beautiful way to show and validate that they've done it right, and it's something they can test along as they go along in the process.
I just wanted to add that the standards Paul is talking about, that's the WCAG 2.0 standards, and those are the organization. So you can access those on the W3C website, and they have a bunch of different things and recommendations for websites.
And based on people learning how to use NVDA through these classes, are there lessons that they can take from that and apply if they do want to use a Freedom Scientific or another screen reader software? Is there things that can kind of help translate and get people more into the screen reading environment?
You want me to take a stab at that, John? Absolutely. I think one of the things that people who are new to computer use as a blind person need to know is that running a screen reader requires you to learn some keystrokes. And there are very specific kinds of things because you have to be able to read parts of the screen, the title bar, for example, learn how to read individual windows, learn how to read by character word, or to move among boxes and buttons on a screen. And so if you learn some of those techniques with NVDA as a starting point, it makes it a lot easier to make the transition to something like JAWS, which is a Freedom Scientific screen reader, is by far the most used screen reader in the world, and certainly in the U.S. And the techniques that you would learn using NVDA are nicely translatable if you decide to go to JAWS, or if you decide to get into an employment situation where they happen to have JAWS as their screen reader. You will find that transition to be a lot easier.
That's great. A slight transition to another topic. I believe, Paul, this is your fourth time coming to CES?
It is, and it's overwhelming every time.
And John, this is your first time. Tell me, what are you excited to find here around the show floor and talking to different technologies? Come in.
What do you think, John?
I don't know. We're really interested in VR technology for low vision applications, and you can't turn around here without bumping into someone that deals with VR. So we're really happy to see that taken off.
And I would say, generally speaking, it's wonderful to see the products that are connected through smartphones and apps, because both Android and Apple products are highly accessible and usable by people who are blind or visually impaired, so people who want speech or low vision or braille. And to have these products that are connected to your smartphone, if the product has been designed, if the application has been designed right, a blind person now has access to a connected home appliance or an internet device, internet-connected device, a health device that they've never been able to use independently before. Health devices, for example, where people can now measure blood pressure and heart rate and things that they would have had to have a sighted person available to do before. Well, now you hook it up to your smartphone, look at your app, and you can get your numbers in the privacy of your own as you wish to see it.
That's great. that you're doing translating technology for the blind and low vision community. If people are interested in learning more about what AFB is doing, where can they get more information?
Well, we would invite people to come to afb.org, our website, where there are a number of easily findable links to information. In fact, we've been blogging about this show and products and things that we find on the show floor that we think are of interest to our community. We have a magazine called Access World that is a freely available magazine on the web, and it's available through afb.org. And all things technology are reported upon in that magazine. And of course, these NVDA project will be something we'll be keeping updated there as well.
I'd like to add that the NVDA videos are going to be available on the website using AFB's free accessible web video player. And that's if anyone wants to use that on their website, they can find it on afb.org.
This is an HTML5 player because we saw that there was a need to have an accessible way to play videos in the HTML5 standard. Thanks for mentioning that, John. It's a great work that our web department has done.
Other thing I'll mention is Paul has been blogging his experience here at CES. Maybe I shouldn't do a shout out because I haven't had a chance to read any of it yet, so whatever he said about me is not true. But no, I really do appreciate you guys being here, sharing your experiences at CES, doing the work that you're doing with screen readers. If people are interested in learning more about the CTA Foundation, they can go to ctafoundation.tech. And thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks for having us.